All right, what is up, traders? This is gonna be the September 2019 trading recap. I made $5,100, so much better than last month's 1,200. I fixed a lot of my mistakes that I made last month and made it better and made myself better for this month. So we're gonna go through week by week. We're gonna go over the the Trader Investor Summit. That was in the middle of the month, and then I also want to last part of the video. I want to go over things that I'm going to take away from this month to hopefully better me as we enter October or November and December this year. So let's get right into it. First week, so Monday the market was closed. Tuesday, I had an overnight play on YRIV. Let's go all the way over here. So this was a delist play, was listed, and then I think it got delisted for price manipulation. So let's go here. So this was back in August. I talked about that in my last trading cap review. But then this day, it started having a nice bounce. And so I was looking to short the first red day. I think we can get it here. Let's see. Get the intraday. Uh-oh. Come on. There we go. Cool. So that was this day right here. Last day, 4 months over. So this is the red green move, I think was 70. So I started shorting right away. Covered in these dips. I actually made a fat finger mistake. I actually accidentally shorted a little more than it's covered, and I immediately realized that. So then I covered the ad and some more. This bounce was much larger than I thought too. Like this thing now went back green, and it was kind of testing these all-time high or these days highs. So I got really nervous. But I stuck to my plan. My risk was going to be 75 right here, so I added a little bit into these bounces, and then it faded into the close, held overnight. And come Tuesday when I took profits, covered in the mid 50s for a solid gain. It was around, I think it was like $1,000, and then I made another 400 on LCI. If most of you have been watching this last month, it's a nice big huge runner from the sixes up to the 12s and 14s. And so if we go the intraday, this is so the two trades between YRIV and LCI was a great example of how going over my trades in the August recap video was really beneficial for me as much as it was beneficial for you guys who were watching and like learning from my trades, because both these trades kind of tested my plan making. Like they kind of pushed me to the edge of questioning whether I was even right and whether I should even stop out. As you saw with YRIV, these bounces really kind of tested my nerves, and I had to really trust my plan of risking, the high a day to hold on. And the same thing was true for LCI. It panicked here, and so I thought this could be the backside. I added into this little bounce right here, thinking it was going to work. Right, all of a sudden it gets a bounce, and this bounce starts breaking, these prior highs. So I'm thinking, and this stock has been so choppy on the way up, throughout this whole process. Like it dumped here and kept coming back. So I'm thinking, I'm going to get stopped out. And so I was like thinking, well, why don't I just take my loss now, and it'll be a smaller loss once I stop out. And that's not necessarily the best mentality all the time. And so I was risking, again, the high day here. And it was just I was saying it's breaking 13, it's getting very close to my stop, and I'm just getting very nervous. I'm getting worried that it's going against me. But I stuck to my plan no matter how awful the price action looked going against me, and it ended up fading. Failing the bounce failed and faded down to new lows, and I covered in here for another $300-400. So that was the main gist of this week. Next week was, I briefly went over it into my last video about why being a profitable trader isn't enough. So I won't go too much into it, but I will review the trades that happened because I didn't do that in that video. The first day of the week, the 9th, was a Fannie Mae, which was by far my favorite play this month. So if you go to the daily chart, everyone and their mother has been anticipating this breakout right here, this 320 breakout. I remember I've tried to break it or buy it multiple times up in this area right here, and then it would fail, and I'd take small losses. But finally, we get a gap up on news. Let's actually go to the intraday now. And you can see right here, before I even change it, the volume is massive, right? It traded over 60 million shares that day. So the news was meaningful. It brought in a lot of people to be interested in trading it, and I capitalized. If we go into the intraday here, yeah, this is nice. So if you were at the conference, me, Jack, and Dom all had mentioned, what an OT Swizzle looks like, and this is such a good example. So in the morning, I remember, I'm buying this dip right here because remember the breakout is 320. So I'm thinking if this holds, I'm going to be interested. So it did. I started getting long, it broke a new high a day, and I'm thinking, this volume is huge. This is going to really run today. So I didn't really sell much up in here. And then out of nowhere, it dies. Look at this panic from new high a day to new low a day within, like 10 minutes. And so unfortunately, I had to get out. I had to protect myself. I sold, almost like 2 cents from low a day. And, in hindsight, that looks dumb that I sold that low. But at the same time, this thing could have, this thing was up 20, still up 10, 20% at this point. It could have easily panicked back down to the 270s. And if I didn't sell my long then, I would have been in big, big trouble. So in hindsight, it does look bad that I sold so at the low a day, but, I have to protect myself in that situation. So then it bounced right away. I remember taking, a small long on the bounce and flipped it for a couple $100. And then this is where the fun starts. I didn't think it was going to come back after having this pull, but it actually does, right? It continues to grind up, and then for about an hour or two, it has this beautiful, beautiful sideways action, right? And it gets so tight here where the range is now, 342 to 350, where now the stock has to make a decision. It's either going to go up or it's going to go down, right? It's in such a tight, good consolidated range that you now can read which direction it wants to go. And so ultimately you see this volume come in, it breaks 350, I get long, and all of a sudden we're now off to the races. More volume comes in, and I start selling pieces into every one of these spikes. And I wanted to hold overnight. I wanted to let this gap up and run even more. But I ultimately realized my original goal of this plan was to sell it around 4, and the fact that it could go all the way there into the 390s into the close, I just didn't see my risk reward being worth it holding overnight. So I did sell the rest of the pieces in 390s, and it faded off. So that was a sweet $1,500 gain. I forget where I made another 200, but it was a very silly single. It wasn't meaning much. And then back to the video I made a couple weeks ago about why being a profitable trader is enough. I talk about these trades where I was in these massive swings from down 800 to then break even, down break 800 again, to then on this day and Thursday up for like 1300, and then almost down on the day to back up 600. And so those trades were these ones on like RADA or RAD, trying to short this stock that just wouldn't stop going up. All these days, it had like a fake red move and grind back. It had this day I got squeezed. If we go intraday in here, this is low for me today. Let's go here. So like this day is the first time it had a nice big crack, and I start shorting this bounce, and this bounce just doesn't fail, right? You think it fails here, then it comes right back and it squeezes me out. And then of course the next day it actually has the gap down, which kills it, and I missed that. I completely missed this move because I was so kind of not traumatized, but I was so kind of scarred from this play. I was like, this stock is never going to pull back. Of course it does, but I'm not there for it, so that's unfortunate. So that was part of this day. Same as DSKE was the same idea as RADA or RID. I'm thinking that with this grinding up here, it's eventually going to pull back, and it eventually did. But again, I wasn't there for it, and I got caught up on these like fake red moves. I was just way too eager. I was taking way too many trades that weren't very good. I started trying to trade TTOO a couple times, which ultimately led to losses because it was such a choppy stock. And so like I had mentioned in the video earlier, this was the second week of this month was so busy that I thought doing more would work, right? I thought there were so many plays to trade that ultimately I could then make more, and it wasn't true at all. So again, I pulled out almost $2,000, but mainly, honestly, all that goes to the day I made money on Fannie Mae. Rest of these days were just very rough, over trading, taking trades that weren't really that great, and just trying to force things. So that's probably the biggest lesson from this month, just to kind of cool out no matter how many plays there are. The third and fourth week, it actually turns very, very slow. I remember, let's see, some of the trades I took. Yeah, so the best trade I took was on the 19th, which was CMXC. This is a OTC runner kind of slash potential promotion. I couldn't find any proof that it was a promotion, but it definitely acts and looks like it. And so Jack Kellogg actually went over this in his video. But we had the exact same plan. We were actually in an Airbnb together before the conference, so we took this exact same trade together, like side by side. So it was very, very cool. And essentially, so it breaks out, right? It holds this breakout level at 50 cents. It then breaks out again. It comes down. It holds this level at 85 cents, and then we break out again, right? And so the breakout level is like the 145 area. So me and Jack are thinking, if this can't hold the breakout level, the trend is broken, right? This kind of parabolic daily move, now it can't hold the breakout level, so we want to get short. We shorted. It dumped far more than I thought. I was prepared to swing it like 3 or 4 days. It ended up going all the way down to 85 that day. And so me and Jack were just thinking, we should probably just take our profits, not to overstay our welcome. And we took them. So that was a nice, like $1,000 gain for me. And then the next day we had EMIS, which was a stock I was watching for a breakout. Now, if you know my strategy, or have talked to me about breakouts before, I am awful at them. So I kind of do regret playing this trade or taking this trade, but it looked so good because previous breakouts have worked really well, right? We have a breakout down here, earlier in 2019, and it rips, or over, a good swing over a few days would have played you well. Same thing here, breakout, nearly breaks out 100%. Same thing here, 3 or 4 green days. So we're thinking, if we buy this breakout, hopefully it'll give us a day or two of upside. And that just wasn't the case. It looked like it was working for a while. I had missed the initial breakout of 1050 here, but then it went over to 11. So I'm thinking, okay, if this can hold, I want to get long, and hopefully it'll rip into the close. So it held this 1060, which is another hold of the breakout. So I'm thinking, okay, so I start longing it in this kind of grind up. And as you can see, there's just no momentum follow through. It fades away. I end up having to sell, when it breaks this 1060 area, and it just fades in the close. So that was really unfortunate. It makes me hate breakouts even more, even though, it really wasn't the best play for me in my strategy in the first place. But, that was just another small loss there. And so that's in the small week. Then we have the conference. So freaking awesome to meet you guys. Like to finally put like a face to a screen name. Some of you guys had some awesome questions. I was I was kind of uncertain as to who maybe would recognize me, if anyone recognized me. And some of you guys came up to me and introduced yourselves. And I thought that was super awesome to kind of talk to you guys because we're all like, I'm talking to a laptop screen right now. So having to be able to talk to other people and help you guys out was really, really fulfilling. It was such an awesome time. And I can't wait for next year. I really, really can't wait. So that was very cool. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have a live trade that I could have taken that day on live trading day on Monday to help you kind of see my thought process on a trade I was taking, but there really wasn't anything that fit my outlook and my system. So I didn't take any trades then. Tuesday there also wasn't much, but then on the 25th we have one of my favorite looking runners of the month, which is GHSI. Let's actually get rid of some of these here. Let's get rid of some of the tabs. Okay, so GHSI, if you look at this daily chart, just really, really good looking daily chart. Nice, solid green days, big volume. And every day, or at least this day, it held green or red green. So unfortunately, I missed this move, but I knew if it ever came back, this move is or the backside is gonna look similar to how it was here. And that's exactly what happened. So we have 3 big green days. It breaks out this day. Unfortunately, the $600 loss that was on Wednesday was me thinking that the backside was in too early. So once it failed to break out, so like the breakout is about 79.80 cents. It gaps up over the breakout, right? But then this morning spike to me fails. It spikes, pulls back, has a lower high, and then has a crack again. So I'm thinking I'm starting to shorten here. It bounces or pulls back even more. So I think I'm right. I start shorting into shorting into here, and all of a sudden, there's more strength left, and it squeezed me out. So that was, that was $650 loss. That was tough. But I wouldn't not take this trade. A lot of the runners do this, and then they actually continue to fade off, and then they go red in the day. So, that's just unfortunate part of these listed plays. Are a little more choppier. They got more strength than you might imagine. So I just stopped out. Didn't want to trade it the rest of the day because I thought, it would go higher, and ultimately the next morning would be the best time to short it. But you see here this 89 support that held this whole hour eventually cracks into midday. And unfortunately, I was away from the computer. I didn't see this, But then I see this bounce fail, and I start shorting right in here. A little bit of a chase. I really wish I would have gotten this entry in the high 80s, but I was okay starting in, on this 85 crack, and then I added into this bounce, and then it really died and went red on the day. So I'm thinking, now I'm definitely right. I'm definitely on the right track this time. This thing is actually failing the breakout. This was just a little hint of what was happening. It just needed, a really proof for it to fail again for it to happen. And so I add into this bounce. It starts fading again. And now I'm getting worried because if you look at this level here, this is the 78, 79 true breakout level, right, from yesterday. And the fact that it holds has me worried now, right? If this holds the breakout and continues to squeeze in the close, like I don't want to be short this amount of size that I have overnight. And so into this bounce, unfortunately, I cover 3,000 of my 8,000 shares. I cut it for like break even, so I didn't lose anything. But unfortunately, I cut it without it breaking any risk, right? I just kind of cut it out of being uncomfortable and being kind of psyched out about this breakout level potentially holding. So that was kind of my least favorite part about this trade, but it did hold that 85 resistance, then faded into the close, held my 5,000 shares overnight, comes in the morning with a nice gap down. I cover a little bit here, and my trade plan was that I'm going to let it spike, I'm going to let it top out, and that's going to be my new risk. So the new risk now, after it spiked, was 78, 77.5. Pulls back, I stay patient, let it break down, and I cover into the sweet panic for, I think it was $800. Yeah, $850. So that was really sweet. Unfortunately, I wish it was more that I didn't cover my 3,000 shares here. But again, to take 5,000 of the shares and still make up for my loss, that was very, very cool. And that was the main of that play. And then we have Friday, which was LINK. Now, normally this isn't something I like sharing only because it is so illiquid that it really isn't a good example. I would not say this was a good trade even though it worked, because the reality is it's just too liquid. Trading 50,000 shares a day, like this is not a scalable strategy. But it does fit, what I consider either a manipulated OTC runner or a promotion. So because you can see here, there's 3 nice green days, has a blow off top, and then over these 3 days, it couldn't go any higher. It couldn't break 7, which was my risk. So I took a small position of 400 shares at Cobra and 300 shares at IB. And I swung it for about 2 or 3 days and just said, you know what, this is a liquid, but if it does dump, I'll cover into the panic and I'll be done with it. And luckily, we got that on Friday. Normally, like I said, this is not something that is scalable. This is not something I plan on trading normally, but it did work this time. So, I was fortunate enough to pull away with $1,200. So going forward into October, we enter now fall trading and hopefully winter trading. That is typically when the majority of really, really smart money and traders make most of their money. That's when I found I've made most of my money, or at least it's the easiest to make money. A lot of runners, and we kind of saw a glimpse of that in this second week. So going forward, I want to take what I've learned from this second week, in that even if there are plays, a lot of plays coming up, I don't want to try to force it because there's more opportunities, right? I'd rather nail the 3 best plays of the month than trying to trade 3 plays a day thinking that I'll make more. So no matter how busy it gets, I'd rather really knuckle down and prioritize which plays are the best of, say, like the 20 that pop up on any given week or 2 weeks. And I really want to prioritize which ones are going to be the best, which ones are going to make me the best or the most money and give me the best risk reward kind of situation. So that's the biggest takeaway I want to take from the second week going forward. And then also going forward, I realized I need to work on my risk reward with listed stocks. If you saw my presentation at the conference, you know I mentioned about that I need to, even though I'm learning more in listed, majority of my gains are still from OTCs. I'm still, fairly inexperienced with listed. Even though I am profitable, I am making money, but it's a very rough way to make money. This happened a lot in August and a lot this month, and the perfect example is GHSI. One loss being 650 and then the win being 850, that's not good risk reward, right? I don't want to have to lose first, take a big loss of $600 and then barely make it back with 800, right? With OTCs, it's like if I'm taking a $300-$400 loss, I'm coming around with like $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 gain. The risk reward for OTCs are there. Like I get that, and I've not mastered that, but I do very well like identifying those situations. So for listed, I need to get better with either reducing my losses when I know like a price action isn't working, or like recognizing when GHSI was going to squeeze me, get out earlier kind of thing. And ultimately, once the backside is actually in on these listed runners, be a little more aggressive, right? Have a little more conviction. Don't like GHSI cover my 3,000 shares, prematurely because I'm getting nervous. So that's that kind of thing. Shorting into strength, covering into weakness, kind of like reduce those margins of getting better risk reward are things that I want to work on going forward. Other than that, guys, comment down below if you want to see anything else. Like maybe I actually think about doing maybe some trader psychology videos. Anything you guys might want to recommend, feel free to comment. And I hope you guys like this video, guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.